Hi, good morning. So, 10 green bottles. Glass has a beauty and intensity like no other material, symbolic of the fragility and beauty of life. It offers colour, texture, light, and flowing form. My name is B. Jane Cowie. I am from Australia and I am a glassmaker. During the quiet, trafficless months of 2020, and within the confines of my conveniently combined home studio, I decided to undertake a glassmaker's 30-day challenge. Working with a different type of glass, of bottle glass, for 3 hours every day for 30 days, I wanted to test out and try what it was like working with this type of glass material. It was my next door neighbours who first encouraged me to work with empty bottles. As enthusiastic connoisseurs of wine, they thought it a good idea for me to think about how to turn bottles into new products. So I decided to accept their bottles and jars to see what could be made. I began to think about how I could manipulate the material with hot glass making processes. And it certainly has been interesting working with this type of machine-made glass, as it is so stiff and hard to work with using traditional hand-making skills and techniques. I also started with some kiln forming experiments to make simple bottle-shaped dishes and plates. 9 clear bottles. During the 30-day challenge, I had the chance to learn, realize, and better appreciate the exceptional qualities of bottle glass. Within the confines of my small studio with basic hot glass making equipment, I found the glass to be hard, difficult, and unyielding. So different from the studio glass I usually work with. It has a short working life, which means I have to be quick and move fast. My studio is set up with a standing bench, similar to how they work in glassmaking factories, but with no furnace, only pick-up ovens and annealers, as is the trend in art glass making studios. It becomes a type of mashup of glass making styles I have developed, somewhere between the factory setup and an artist studio. This is a new conversation for me as a maker, working with this different type of glass material, as the glass is so stubborn, resilient, and tough. As well as learning more about bottle glass, I also thought a lot about how glass is currently being recycled. And is it actually being recycled when we put our bottles into those blue recycling bins here in Singapore? And with a little online research, I found that it is not really. Mostly glass in Singapore is being incinerated, ending up in landfill. So out of nowhere, out of the quietness of 2020, I decided to focus on what recycled glass could look like and how to effectively save bottles from landfill. 8 brown bottles. Realizing that Singapore has few glass recycling initiatives and even fewer glass making educational programs, I decided to take the first steps as an artist and as a glassmaker to start a small company to raise awareness about what can be done with these bottles, as well as offer new and creative initiatives for others to learn about glass and glass making. And to provide recycled glass objects for new and emerging businesses wanting to work with sustainable options and materials here in Singapore. 7 forest green bottles. Glass blowing is something I have done for many years, so allow me to share a little about my glassmaking journey thus far. I was first introduced to glass as an artist material at the Sydney College of the Arts in the early 1980s. After my studies and eager to see the world, I travelled to England and Europe, and it was there that I saw glass blowing for the first time. Immediately, I fell in love with this molten material, mesmerized by the glowing liquid, fascinated by how the glass can be formed. I knew instantly I wanted to be a glassmaker for the rest of my life. 4 years later, back in Australia, I sought out the Jam Factory, a craft and design centre, which offered glassmaking traineeships. a place to learn more about glass blowing, to make my own designs and develop my skills. I ended up living in Adelaide for 13 years and becoming part of a vibrant arts community. I was actively involved in exhibitions, events, group studios, and arts committees. I was board member of the Jam Factory, Craft South, and Ozglass, the Australian Association of Glass Artists. And during this time, I took a year out to work in Japan, working in various glass studios and factories to learn more about glass and the Japanese considered approach to making. Upon returning to Adelaide, I built my own hot glass studio, which I operated for 3 years, making my own glass from raw materials, sand, soda ash, and various chemicals. During this time, I concurrently taught at the University of South Australia, as well as being invited to teach at various glass schools and institutions in Europe. I completed a master's degree by research. My thesis was titled A Glassmaker's Perspective, History and Practice of Studio Glassmaking in South Australia from 1975 to 2000. And during this research, I worked with beer bottle glass, as they did in the early 1970s, drinking beer and then throwing the bottles into the furnace with various fluxes to make the glass. I then used my tacit knowledge as a of the glass blowing processes to get insights into what it was really like working with glass at that time, what it felt like, and how it affected of the objects made of that paint bottles. Yet I wanted to learn more and see more about the world, to realise where Australia was situated in the world and to meet Australia's neighbours in Southeast Asia. I had been travelling to Europe, as mentioned, to teach a number of glassmaking workshops in Germany, Turkey, and the Netherlands in the 1990s and early 2000s. Here I taught glass blowing to numerous students in glass blowing workshops, teaching with and without a hot glass furnace. During these trips, I would stop over in Singapore. I was intrigued by the local art scene and thought it would be interesting to return, to maybe live and work there for a while. I was then offered a position to teach at the LaSalle College of the Arts in 2003 and started up the hot glass studio and invited international artists to run workshops with the students. Yet subsequently, I did actually want to return to my own glassmaking practice and found employment in a local glass company to build and operate a small hot glass studio. Once the studio was built, I managed a small team of glass blowers, designing and making components for various projects within the region. I was meeting with clients to better understand the requirements for the space and then designing art glass installations while project managing and glassmaking. My eyes were now open to a different path, to a shift in my career direction. 5 vodka bottles. This has since become my new creative path for some 15 years, as I ventured out into self-employment and started my own company, Art Glass Solutions, in 2008. Since then, I have been working with developers, architects, interior designers, and contractors to create large art glass installations and artworks for public spaces. I have worked on numerous projects, including a large outdoor installation at the Merrill Lynch office building at Harbourfront in Singapore. The largest project I have been commissioned to design and install was at the Ocean Financial Centre. This installation comprises 999 fish, some 2.5 tonnes of cast crystal glass. It took 4 years to complete with its numerous multi-layered components. Requiring extensive research investigation into the fixtures and fittings and coordination of the different layers of installation and making process. It was actually an amazing, challenging, and exciting experience. Working with large project construction teams, offering my input and consideration, while working with the diversity of on-site situations and construction limitations. As an artist, I was able to offer recommendations that were developed to resolve various technical and aesthetic issues that arise within these large art glass installation artworks like this. This experience, working within larger groups in the construction industry, certainly offered me a different experience as being an artist, making artworks for exhibitions alone in my studio. It allowed me to see a different perspective and the larger picture, beyond my own practice as an exhibition artist and studio glassmaking educator. 4 blue bottles. The 30-day challenge offered a chance to use my glass-blowing knowledge and expertise, an opportunity to return to the hot glass-making processes I love, to explore and search for solutions through making and doing within the process itself. Exploring the rhythm of making, the dance with material, as an embodied connection between the maker and this amazing molten, supercooled liquid, it was great to be glassmaking again, as it reignited my passion for the process. Further, it gave me time to think about all I had learned and experienced with glass thus far, and how I might use this knowledge to build a more sustainable future for glass. Once my initiative was seen on social media, many people began to donate bottles to the cause, all keen to see their bottles being put to good use and recycled. Over the past month, my piles of bottles have grown and grown, but before I can work with this glass, I need to prepare them. I need to first soak the bottles, then scrub off the labels, remove the label glue, which sometimes is very thick with turpentine, and do a final clean with glass cleaner before I can heat them and make something new. And I realized, once cleaned, the glass is like new again. So I thought, instead of using more energy to make more products, why don't we simply reuse the glass as is? 3 Corona bottles. Glass contains a constant potential to be reinvented and remade. So why don't we do more recycled glass? Considering the huge impact packaging has on the environment, it might seem the right time now to explore new ways of doing things differently, to embrace the moment, to start to live a life more efficiently within this new normal we are now living within. Currently, we are reaching out to local F&B outlets, lighting suppliers, and small businesses to see how we can work together to create new opportunities to use recycled glass. Over the past months, many individual consumers and businesses have reached out, glad to have found a glass recycling initiative in Singapore. There is a keen interest to work with recycled glass as our collective sustainability awareness increases. And with funding and support, we can start to make a difference. With funding, we could build a larger professional glassmaking studio, which is cost-effective, open to the general public to educate and entertain as an open access facility for regular glassmaking demonstrations and exhibitions. We could expand our research and development of products with more staff and equipment to find creative and innovative solutions and experiment with different ways of recycling the glass available. And we could supply a range of production items for the F&B sector, local food manufacturers, lighting suppliers, and other industries requiring glass packaging. The recycled glass pieces could create an experience rather than just be a functional object. As we build a community of like-minded people around the Refined Studio, we aim to inspire and excite with creative activities, new opportunities, and sustainable initiatives. 2 black bottles. Glass bottles and jars should be considered as an asset, as containers ready for reuse, as well as a material not to be wasted. the benefits of using what we have rather than use more resources and more energy to create more waste. We can use new technologies, new techniques to mine the materials we already have above the ground, preventing or slowing down the digging, and even more digging of natural resources, and in particular sand. Till finally, one sapphire bottle. I now see with fresh eyes the vast amounts of products packaged in glass containers as I see in my local supermarket. And there is a newfound clarity of understanding regarding the scale of the situation. And the realization of the volume of glass currently being wasted in Singapore every day is overwhelming. But I also see missed opportunities to monetize a resource we already have available. Financial support and investment partners will facilitate the growth of refined towards more sustainable solutions. As an artist and glassblower, this has been the place for me to start with what I do best, with the glass itself. As my personal glassmaking journey continues, and as I discover divergent career paths, venturing far from my starting point, I continue my ongoing adventure to research, develop, and innovate, now with used glass bottles. With a clear focus on sustainability, I look forward to working with communities, partners, and investors to establish reusing networks to create bespoke solutions while expanding the recycling and reusing capabilities inherent in glass. Refined is not only on a mission to repurpose glass, we want to reuse and repurpose all of Singapore's imported glass, while continuing to enrich the lives of many through the creation of sustainable glassmaking solutions. So that's the end of my talk. So I have a question here. Hi Jen, how long did it take you to master the skill of glassmaking? I would say 5 years is a good amount of time to really understand how to make glass when you're blowing glass. And I was pretty much blowing glass every day during that period as well. Glass is something that you get very passionate about. It's too hard otherwise. That's why when you meet other glass makers, they are always very committed to their passion, which is the making of glass. And they would only do it because they really like the material and really want to work with the material. Otherwise, it's just so difficult to work with glass. But glass is an amazing material. It's got amazing color and light, and for me, I think it is that purity of color that comes through the glass, which is created by the light, and the effort and diversity of techniques and styles available within when you're making glass is really quite amazing. So there's always something new that the material offers, and I really love the process as well. There's so much about the material that I really like. I've just got some questions coming through on my phone here because I can't seem to see them on the screen. So there's a question about, I was wondering what the numbers slides mean to black bottles. Part of my, of me as an artist is that I do creative writing as well as making glass. And for the slideshow, I wanted to have sort of a countdown of what's going on within the talk itself to sort of measure the time. And because I'm collecting so many bottles, I've just got a huge diversity of glass bottles, which is really amazing, which is really fascinating for me to see. And so putting those bottles together, there's also the rhyme of 10 green bottles hanging on the wall. So again, that's a nice way to tie in the talk, how the talk is moving through, to divide the sections of what I'm thinking about, and to sort of really accentuate what's going on. But it also shows you the diversity of different bottles that are available. How can we participate in my initiative? Well, since I started, a lot of people are dropping off bottles at my front gate, which is great. I get these little gifts every day, now and again. But at the moment, I have a huge pile of glass bottles out the back. So what I'm looking for now is ways that we can use the bottles. I have a few volunteers that come in and help me clean the bottles now, but I really need to reach out and find people that need a container, a vessel, and if it's recycled glass, then that's even more the better. So I'm keen to work with others that that need bottles to reuse some bottles. So as I'm collecting, I can sort, I can clean, I can prepare for reuse. So look, working with local food industries, if they have any packaging needs, instead of importing an empty bottle into Singapore, which is a terrible idea for me now, because I have so many bottles, without actually being proactive in collecting. It means that there's so many resources here, so many jars and bottles that come into Singapore. So the more I can collect, the more I can offer to other companies to use. So I'm hoping actually to find some more customers for the business that want to actually be sustainable, use the products that come into Singapore that are existing here, so that we start to create closed loop systems, so we keep reusing the bottles that are actually in Singapore and the jars in Singapore. So that's really what I'm really looking for now, is customers to need to use the packaging that I have available and want to use reused glasses in interesting ways. Do you ever work with the organizations who do beach cleanups to take the glass bottles? No, I haven't worked with those people yet, but it would be interesting to do so. It's interesting that on beach cleanups, there's mainly plastic bottles. So most people are concerned about plastic bottles, but plastic floats, so it's very obvious and found. Glass bottles tend to sink because they're heavier, and so they're not found as much. And I've sort of realized in my research that the glass bottles, one-use glass bottle situation is probably worse than the one-use plastic bottle situation, because glass takes more resources to actually make. And so I really hope to start initiatives where actually the glass that is imported with a product in it into Singapore can be reused in Singapore, reused by companies within Singapore, but then even perhaps exported to another country as the products are exported. And maybe consider bringing things in bulk into Singapore and then bottling in Singapore. So really the focus of my initiative at moment is to support local companies and local businesses in their packaging needs, and really demonstrate that buy in bulk and then put into smaller bottles or jars here in Singapore could actually be a better way of working. And that's what we did 100 years ago. If we look back to history, we're at such a different place now in freight and logistics. And so packaging is a big part of that. People are also donating to me bubble wrap and boxes, which is also something I need as the business expands. So there are lots of different aspects about the packing industry. This is actually really important to consider and to reuse, not just the packaging itself. So how can we donate glass bottles to your initiative? Well, my address is online, and then also you can follow me on Instagram to see what's going on at the moment. But you can just contact me and then see what particular bottles and jars I'm in need of at the moment, and just drop them off to the studio. And then while you're dropping them off, maybe you can consider taking something that's been recycled away with you, purchasing something, or even bringing a suggestion, a contact of someone that might need packaging within Singapore. So there's a few companies that need a certain type of jar. The cold pressed coffees, they have a very nice small bottle. I get quite a few of those. So saving up those sort of items that will be reused and have a very immediate seeable reusing function, I can collect those sorts of bottles and then send them back to the people that actually make the products. And if it's coffee, it's used very regularly, every day, as a takeout thing. So instead of considering a plastic cup as a takeout item, use a glass bottle or jar as a takeout item that is definitely recyclable, that can be taken back and reused, or put into a recycling system that I'm starting up to be part of the service that we can offer other companies in Singapore. So I've just been told that I have 1 minute left. So I'd just like to thank you for listening to my talk. I'm a very small company at the moment, and so volunteers would be wonderful to help. Any initiatives, investors would like to participate in would also be good to assist get the business off the ground and going. And we also offer education programs, so you can learn more about glass making and maybe start making glass with recycled glass bottles yourself. And then to participate by dropping off bottles and jars to actually give more purpose to what we're doing, so that we can actually remake and reuse what's available in Singapore already. So thank you very much.